Non-American people, what's a thing that you don't understand about America? Does every worker have to file their own taxes, or am I just confused? You're not confused. It's a pain in the ass. What's even better is the government knows how much you owe, but they won't tell you. They make you do complicated calculations based on a set of ever-evolving rules to figure it out, and then fine you if you're wrong. Exactly, and it'll never change because it has turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry with a strong lobbying arm. One could use this statement to answer most of the questions in this thread. Unsure why something about the US seems backwards or counterintuitive? You can pretty much guarantee it's that way because a giant corporation is making a shit ton of money for it to be that way. Scottish person here, but the work always available for work culture, minimal vacation time, minimal paternity leave, and the fact you can pretty much just be let go. It makes me sad to think about it, but I do love that you guys cram so much into your time off. You guys love a road trip. Most Americans don't like it either. The erosion of unions beginning in the 80s really fucked a lot of us. I think there has been a big shift in culture around that, since millennials have reached their middle age, and because COVID encouraged a lot of people to rethink their lives. I think we will see positive progress on this issue in the next decade. So, why do you buy politicians' merchandise, shirts, caps, banners, stickers, etc.? They are public servants, not rockstars. Also, usually the more boring they are, the better. The US prefers the entertaining psychopaths. What is up with homeowner associations? Why would you pay to let a nosy neighbor dictate what you can and cannot do on your own property? I understand living in an apartment block and paying maintenance fees etc., but in a suburban home? The amount of national parks. My dream came true in 2017 to make an RV trip southwest of USA. Yosemite blew my mind away. The national parks system and the ADA are some of the US's greatest accomplishments. Thank you, Theodore Roosevelt. Why everything is just so damn supersized. My first time in America, I went to get iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. I ordered a large and my friend is like, "Are you sure you want large?" "Yeah, no biggie." In the UK a large is not overwhelming, I feel, so I was expecting the same kind of thing. Oh my god, it was like a goddamn bucket of coffee. I think maybe a small would have been equivalent to a UK large. Lesson swiftly learnt. Edit. Wow, lots of replies. I had no idea you guys didn't get vacation days, and that sucks so hard for you. The large portions weren't an inherently bad thing. I really felt in the 2x I've been to America that I totally got my money's worth when eating out. You guys even give free popcorn or breadsticks at the table. It was just a bit of a culture shock, I guess. In the UK, for example, certain coffee shop chains don't even offer a large iced latte because of sugar content, so the size is capped medium. How you have to share a room with some complete rando when you go to college. Rando number 1 ran a hair perming business from our tiny room. The chemical fumes were awful. Rando number 2 hid her boyfriend in our room while he was evading police warrant for his arrest. Rando number 3 let her friends sleep in my bed any night I was away. Rando number 4 threatened to kill me while I slept, because she was mad I took my TV home. I'm not a fan of this system. Ended up being an RA to get a private room. I'd eat it for formatting. My rando from freshman year ended up becoming my best friend. After my first year we just picked friends to live with. Sophomore year there were 4 of us, and 6 of us for the following 3 years. OMG, yep, that's what worries me. It's a crapshoot. My university had us take this giant personality quiz that was mostly random questions about music, movies, and art, and they spit it through an algorithm and it matched us up perfectly. I got put with a brilliant match freshman year. I took care of him while he was pledging his frat, and when he became president I got to go to every single event without even being great. 10/10, would do again. How you can say the word mirror without the use of any vowels. MRRRRR. As an American from the South, I can safely say I've done this more than once. As an American from the South, 98% of my family does this exclusively. Why they make you calculate your own taxes, if they know what you're at? Because companies like TurboTax and H&R Block use the profits they make from charging us to file our taxes to lobby politicians into making policies which prevent the government from just telling us how much we owe, even though the government knows. exactly how much we owe so that we need to pay companies like TurboTax and H&R Block to file our taxes. The culture of just talking to people, strangers you don't know, and just up and start a conversation with them or join a conversation, in British, and we go through great lengths to not talk to people, let alone opening up and pouring our hearts out to a random person. I am from the western US and moved to South Carolina for a few months for work. I was very surprised at how many random people in public just started conversations with me. If you are standing in line for anything, it is a given that they will chat you up in the South. Agree that the East Coast is more talkative than the West Coast in general. I am from Washington State and there's a saying called the Seattle Freeze where people are polite, but do not really converse with strangers. The tipping culture is so foreign to me. I would be so scared to make a mistake or not tipping enough if I ever go to America, because it's not something which is common here in Denmark. Why do public restrooms include a small opening between the doors that allows passers-by to see you when you're taking a piss? My mum is from Moscow during the Soviet era, and she is confused why there is no teacher-student hierarchy. She thinks it's weird when teachers participate in school plays or speak to students informally. She also does not get pajama day. To her, it's just the weirdest thing in the world. In Russia, there is an important distinction between clothes for home and clothes for outside. They have a concept of home clothes, like your cozy or ugly clothes, that you are supposed to change into after school or work. At bedtime, you change out of your home clothes into pajamas. As a result, pajamas, for both adults and children, are considered extra private in Russia. My mum perceives pajama day as something extreme like wearing only undergarments to school. That's how private pajamas are considered to be in Russia. I'm from Russia, can confirm. I had recurring nightmares of going to school in my sleepwear because I forgot to get dressed for some reason. Then I learned people actually do that on purpose. I still can't imagine doing that even after living in Germany for 20 years. Oh, and the concept of home clothes is rather foreign to a lot of people here as well. Another American thing I don't get is wearing shoes in your house, you heathens. This is weird because in certain parts of China, and in countries where the Chinese emigrated to post-World War II, you'd see some elderly folks wandering in town wearing pajamas. Apparently it used to be a sign of wealth that you could afford pajamas, so they are just flaunting it out at night lol. I'm American but I've worked with a lot of people who aren't. The one thing they always wonder is why Americans are so obsessed with the NFL. They think it's a boring sport. They explained you wait for 30 seconds, they hike the ball, you get about 5-10 seconds of action, then you wait another 30 seconds, another 5-10 seconds of action, then commercial break. Why is that one Kansas, but the other one is not Arkansas? America explain, what do you mean it's Arkansas? Because we used to speak French Creole in that region. I don't know if that's true but that's my best guess. Edit, I looked it up and I was correct. Arkansas is the French pronunciation of a Native American tribe. And Florida is a Spanish way of saying flower. Edit, flowery. And Florida is a musician. I'm English, was born with cerebral palsy. I can walk but with a very noticeable limp. I came to America to visit friends who moved here. Everyone was so friendly, hardly anyone commented on my disability. If they did it was just polite questions, not making fun of me. I loved it here, so much so I've been here for 23 years. For all of America's faults in recent years, the people here are just way more accepting of people in general. Edit, I am truly touched by everyone's kind words and questions. Truly Reddit can be a great place when we all get along. Americans, to our credit, actually deal with disability access issues. We're not perfect. There are a lot of old buildings that haven't been retrofitted to accessibility standards, and there's still some stigma around disability. However, we're also keenly aware that the day will come when we're not going to move as well, or our mental faculties will fail us, or we'll go blind and or deaf, and we'd like the adjustment to be easy and dignified. I agree there's a lot for improvement. When I was taking a history class in college I was really surprised that the disabled had their own rights movement. My professor told us about the Capitol crawl during one of these protests where a group of handicapped Americans proceeded to climb the Capitol stairs without their wheelchairs or other mobility aids to emphasize the so-called most important Building in the US was inaccessible to them. This passed laws where accessibility had to be in building codes. It blew my mind because I never heard about it in any history class I took before. That's metal if I love it. The natural confidence, the ability to take your own space, in a positive and refreshing way. I come from Sweden where I feel that kind of mentality is more uncommon with a more tentative and ironic manner. I'm Swedish but moved to the US while fairly young for school, and honestly people on the bus in Sweden are terrified of me because I make eye contact and sometimes talk to them face with tears of joy. I find it hilarious, especially since I'm from a Latin by Norland. Why tax is not included in the price tag. It even gets more annoying for businesses. I have to go through all invoices and receipts quarterly and find any purchases where we weren't charged sales tax and go voluntarily pay it to my state. Pain in the butt. It's the opposite here. We, Edit, my employer, a non-profit, have a tax exemption, so every time someone doesn't know that and goes and pays full price plus tax for something, or a company charges us tax, I have to reach out and do the song and dance to prove our status and get a refund. Working at a wholesale club and having exempts come up, do everything, get it all rung up, and moments before swiping finally say OBTW I have tax exempt is so annoying. They knew the entire time and it takes extra work for each item to ring properly, and it's not their first time here so they know how it works. If they ever got pissy I would look at them dead and usually they got the hint. I had to do tax-exempt purchases from time to time when I worked at a chain pet store and was always able to just apply it to the whole transaction, and our systems were old and dumb as fuck, even 10 years ago. What really got me though was when the person doing the tax-exempt purchase for their work charity whatever would also be doing their personal shopping at the same time. Load it all up on the conveyor belt and then wait until I was done scanning everything and had entered everything for the tax exemption before mentioning that half the items were supposed to be on a separate transaction. Absolutely on purpose. I do not understand why Americans are portrayed to be very racist and discriminating in most news or media around the world. I got to work for a couple of months in DC and prior to arriving, I was expecting to be racially discriminated against. I'm Asian. Because of the things I see on the news, I was blown away by just how friendly and accepting the people are in general. Folks would just be striking random conversations with me while I'm crossing the street and wishing me a good day. Even if I spoke with an accent, people didn't mind and just talked to me as if they were speaking to another American. In all honesty, I felt more accepted by Americans as compared to fellow Asians when I visited Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, or Thailand. And off topic, but the original Chick-fil-A sauce is seriously delicious. I took a couple of bottles home because they were so good. The racists are a loud minority, and the media gives them a microphone. Also a lot of racists only make sweeping generalizations and stereotypes. The individual people they meet in their lives are rarely discriminated against. I think that's how the majority of American racism is. Like someone will have a conversation at home like, oh, you know how the blacks are. But then they are cool with the black folks at their job, because in their mind they are not one of the blacks, they are my friend Rob who has good stories and sometimes brings donuts for the team. To the T, there's this 55-year-old white man I work with. He is the only white person in his department. When he talks to me he makes so many extreme racial comments. He once told me black men raping white women destroys their vaginal canals and they'll never enjoy sex again. Doesn't have a single problem with all the black men he works with though. Why most of the shower heads are glued to the wall. How on earth do you wash your twats? You make a soapy twat cup with your hands to catch the water. Soapy twat cup, new band name just dropped. The amount of sugar in everything, it's so very much. Post-Depression era food industry set the precedent. The sugary stuff sells better. The 80s and 90s, too. Home video fitness was taking off and everything was advertised as low-fat even though it was packed with sugar or high-fructose corn syrup to maintain good flavor. They made fat a boogeyman even though many types are good for you. Even Twizzlers still proudly put low-fat snack on their packaging as if it's automatically better for you than something with low sugar and high fat. 2 servings of Twizzlers, 8 pieces, has more sugar than a can of Coke and more calories than 2 cans of Coke. This is a super interesting one that has developed over decades at this point. The US gives out a ton of money in farming subsidies, both to keep the cost of food low and to make sure that there's always a surplus. Post-Great Depression and around the time of World War II, a heavy emphasis was placed on corn production since it's a high-calorie and versatile thing to grow. It can be used for both human consumption and livestock, and stores really well compared to other produce. Well, in order to make sure the US always had a surplus of food, the subsidies encouraged farmers to grow more than we needed. With all this extra corn hanging around, people started trying to figure out what to do with it, and so in comes high fructose corn syrup, pretty much just sugar, and is in almost all packaged products in the US, not to mention that the sugar in the food made people like it more. Starting in the late 60s, Big Sugar started campaigning against fat, trying to claim that sugar was actually healthier for you. It was very successful, and it's been in the past 10-15 years that most people in the US realize how bad sugar is for you, although it's still in everything. So then comes the question of why do we not reduce or change subsidies to encourage the production of healthier food instead of so much corn that we just turn it into sugar and add it to everything possible? Due to the way our politics work, it's really fucking hard to do. There's the potential that it raises grocery prices, already a major issue in the US right now. Lobbying from large farm and food corporations prevents it, and as stated above, the US always wants a food surplus in the event of war, famine, or some other catastrophe. So in a sense, the obesity issue in the US has major roots in the government trying to make sure that no one would starve nearly 100 years ago, and the fact that in the US when something is making a lot of money, lobbying keeps it from changing. There's a lot, but I visited the US for the first time in December, and one thing that stood out to me, billboards, all along the highway, billboards everywhere, most of them for scummy-looking lawyers. Why this? That was how advertising was done before the advent of the internet. Car culture plus commute equals views. They still exist, so they are kind of secondary advertising. Buck Keys does this by telling you how far the next one is to get you excited to stop. Why do Americans put their TVs so high up the wall? I understand that sometimes it's because there's a fireplace below where it should be, but how do they even watch the TV without straining their necks? We slouch. Why did Ross, the largest friend, not simply just eat the other 5? It was a joy-heavy episode anyway. Housing codes, and why all your front gardens are just grass, and identical. The front gardens thing, or front yard lawn as we call it, is also because of building codes. Lol, typically houses have to be set back from the property lines a certain distance. Around me it's 30 feet for the front property line, so everyone builds right on that 30-foot line to maximize the backyard space, which is what Americans prioritize as their private outdoor space. The Americans are genuinely friendly and kind. Whenever I traveled there I had great experiences. We often see the business side of your vast nation on TV etc., but your average American is a pleasure to meet. I do find it odd that service industry workers are not paid appropriately. Tipping really stresses me out, as I know it's not just a bonus for great service. Also, you lot deserve better healthcare. 10 vacation days a year. There's life outside of work. Vacation days aren't mandatory, not even 10 days. The organization I work at gives us 15 days right from the get-go, and many of my friends think that's an incredible starting amount. I started my first big girl job and get 15 days this year. I'm so excited. My mom's been at her job for a year and only gets 3. Why such good people as American citizens are governed by such assholes as American politicians? Good people don't want to be politicians. Anyone capable of getting himself elected president should on no account be allowed to do the job. Douglas Adams. Chicken or the egg? Americans view politicians very poorly, among the lowest of any profession, so the most talented people choose other professions that are viewed more positively, leaving the rest to take the poorly viewed jobs. On top of this, our society just generally values money-making and practical professions more than more abstract ones like art, politics etc. This is taught from the day one is introduced to society and undoubtedly has an effect on what the best and brightest choose to do. There's also the sales element to politics which turns good people off. You spend 80% of your time asking donors for money. If we had publicly financed elections, I promise you a knock-on effect would be better candidate quality. This is the biggest factor. Marketing, messaging, campaigning skills are completely different from the skill set needed to be a legislator or administrator. The people who would make the best politicians are too boring to get elected. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more content like this. Also, make sure to like, comment and share the video. Peace out.